Hi everybody, I'm so excited to share this interview with you. I just got back from a crazy cross-country road trip adventure and I stopped in Louisiana and I had the opportunity to talk to Trihex. Normally you guys might know him as a professional gamer and also a speedrunner and a popular person on Twitch, but we got an opportunity to talk to him about the presidential election the night after it happened. It was amazing, and I thought it was really interesting to get to know him a little bit better. I hope you enjoy the interview.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Malika.
And we love telling stories.
And going on adventures around the world.
But now, we want to explore the country that we call home.
We're going on a cross-country road trip from LA to Miami and back.
And we're live streaming the entire thing from our RV and meeting up with ambassadors in every single city to share with us their experience as they go through 2020 and the crazy year that it is.
It's been nuts.
So come, join us and see how that shapes our story as we go
in search of America.
This ain't like driving on a road.
Oh! All right.
Watching In Search of America, Travels with Hyper. I'm Malika, and we're here today with superstar Twitch partner friend Trihex.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
On one of the most important nights of American history.
That's correct.
Yesterday was election day, and we are still waiting for all those electoral votes to be counted.
Yep.
Joe Biden's in the lead.
That's correct.
You seem not to be worried, but I have the anxiety gears. Hashtag election anxiety is trending. That's me right now. I have these anxiety gears grinding away. But I really wanted to talk to Trihex because you collaborated with the Biden campaign, didn't you?
That is correct, yeah, I did.
So do we have you to thank?
Well, there's a couple things I wanted to dive into there with you, sure. Actually. And the first thing here is that you said that I don't seem very anxious.
Yeah.
I don't have like the
You're cool as a cucumber, dude.
Yeah, I don't have like the election anxiety, right? Sure. So let's go into why that is here. Simply put, see, people discount polling because of the 2016 election because how could Hillary have lost, right?
Right.
And the thing is that one, there's a pandemic.
Right.
Economic turmoil and civil unrest all happening simultaneously.
These are all very true.
This is Trump's America, okay? All these bad things are happening. People are definitely getting the idea that it's not currently working. We need different leadership, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And so that is being evident in the polling. Trump has not made a great case conveying here what he's going to do in his second term to like remedy all these issues. If we go back here to the Chris Wallace Fox News interview, go back to the Axios interview, go back to the Laura Ingraham September interview, and then go back to the disastrous walkout in the middle of the 60 Minutes interview. All of those people individually asked him 5 separate times, what are your plans for a second term? And he had no valid answer.
Nope.
Keep America great, more of what's happening right now.
Yep.
Vague, and the goalposts can be moved constantly, right?
It wasn't really a strategy at all.
So when you look at the polling of how Biden was doing nationally and state by state here, things were not looking good for Trump. Because it'll translate to an unparalleled amount of voter turnout because people are hurting right now.
Right.
The pandemic's been going on officially since March 13th, right?
Right.
And what have Americans gotten since then? 20 million unemployed.
Yep.
They've gotten one coronavirus check.
Yeah.
$200. Which formerly Mitch McConnell said would be good for 10 weeks, which obviously is a slap in the face, but it has been longer than 10 weeks.
And not to mention, I think we're at 250,000 deaths in the United States right now. I'm just thinking about all those families who are mourning.
It's honestly, here's the sad part here. I remember when 100,000 was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point now where it's like normalized almost. Like
sure,
I'm like,
because everybody knows somebody.
Everyone knows someone who knows someone who's affected. Yes.
Yeah, we've been on this journey across the United States from LA to Miami. Now we're on our way back, meeting you up in Louisiana. I saw a lot of Trump signs, and that was worrisome. And you kind of, you're wearing a blue t-shirt right now. You're a Democrat in a conservative area. What's that like?
It's regressing. It's exhausting, definitely. The reality here is that most people don't get to really have the privilege of picking where they live. It's like we don't get to pick what family we're born into.
Right.
So my family resides in Louisiana, and I want to be near my family. My grandmother wasn't doing too well health-wise last year, so I moved mountains to make sure that she had all the adequate care she could have before passing. So that kept me bound here. Would I love to move to, liberal utopia, Austin, Texas, hypothetically? Yes, but the thing is now, like, my life got a lot simpler with coronavirus because I was like, well, I want to remain where it's population sparse, not dense. So, I want to, like, stay wherever I can kind of just isolate to the best of my ability and not have to have any possibility of catching the virus or whatever.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm just kind of, like, chilling here. But, yeah, being the lone progressive out in the wild, it can get defeating, honestly, because I can tell you firsthand, like, just how anti-mask and anti-Biden and like just anti-science a lot of the people are around here.
The number, like 1 and 2 contributors to kind of pro-social behavior is sadly critical thinking and belief in science. And for me, it's extremely discouraging to even like, why is this up for discussion? Right? It seems so basic.
Well, I hate to point fingers at things here, but the answer is simple. It's religiosity. If you go back here, I mean, look at the fact that, was it Nebraska or Arkansas that almost, like, passed a thing where, like, creationism was supposed to be, like, the primary method of scientific teachings in middle school onward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, as somebody from the area, did you experience some of that, like, education?
So, some contrast, right? So, I'm actually born from Orlando, Florida, but I live now in South Louisiana, right?
Yay, another Florida friend.
You know it. And growing up in Florida, it was always multicultural and diverse. I had friends, they were white, they were black, they were Puerto Rican, they were whatever. Like, I never, it wasn't accumulating the races, right? Because it was so diverse.
Right.
And
or like, you're my friend because we share a certain hobby.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that.
I had my Pokemon friends, I had my video game friends, whatever, right? So when I moved to Louisiana, here's where it got jarring for me. I moved to a rural, small town, Louisiana, with my mom when I was 11 years old. Big 180 for me here. When being here, going to middle school here, it was crazy because the demographics were simple. There was 4 main groups of friends to be a part of in the cliques. Black girls, black guys, white girls, white guys. And that's it. And you fall in line. The hobbies did not unify everyone. It was identity. It was like, oh, well, we're black, so we hang out with other black friends. And that was it. And it was subconscious. It wasn't like a deliberate effort made by like some kind of like, rootin' tootin' pro-segregationist teacher or whatever. This was ingrained into the culture. And for me coming from Florida, I was like, why are y'all doing this? What is this here? Like, it's so weird to me here.
Right.
So that was very jarring. So that's an example of where like the racism is kind of like literally taught on a subconscious level. Maybe even the pain from segregation may still persist.
Yeah.
The racism obviously still exists.
I think that's certainly true. I think that's definitely true. As I travel the country, that's what I'm seeing.
And then, but to continue on about your question about like what's like going for school in the South here.
Right.
More of a random topic there, but like sex education is like they are very keen on that, again, that religiosity, on that abstinence.
Yeah.
Because even for me in 6th grade in Florida, condom on the banana. Here's puberty. Here's your genitals.
Your body is changing.
Your body is changing, right? And then you come over here, and I'm telling you, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
I'm sorry. 0 plus 0 times 0 is 0. There was never any point, any kind of condom distribution, any kind of like, hey, listen, if you're gonna do it, strap up.
Yeah.
It's just, what it is? It's ignorance and teen pregnancy.
Yeah.
Rampant.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Like, acknowledge that curiosity is going to persist, and you need to inform and let the teenagers and the young adults who have the information make adequate decisions. When you leave them in the dark, all they have is the parents who also progress sexuality with the religious background, or they go ask Dr. Google in private if they have access to that in the first place here, and that's it.
Have you felt the urge to confront that on a personal level? Like, as a student or as a resident here?
You know what? Okay, this is where it gets a little more pessimistic, honestly.
Sure.
I feel like a flea in a large yard full of shit, of pig shit, if we will here. It's like, it's such an uphill battle that you're better off just like, we need systemic change to really inspire that kind of transformation. And I think that goes back into the fact that we need on a political spectrum here, we need ranked choice voting. We need popular vote to persist. We need abolishing the electoral college. You need things on a systemic level to change to allow like functioning democracy and a majority representation of Americans' views persist to allow that change for it to trickle down to local Louisiana, honestly. Because the things I've seen here, and here's right, the things I've seen here in Louisiana, like why are people like pro-Trump or why are people like anti-Biden?
Right.
They associate, I mean, name every clickbait headline article, right? They're like, Biden's raised my taxes on me. Not true for making under $40,000 a year. I think a lot of y'all don't make anywhere near the amount of money, so I don't think to worry about anything like that, okay? They think that, that like, that the lockdowns are a democratic thing, and that like that's anti-freedom, and that the mask is infringing on their rights. So they think that lockdowns, masks, and high taxes are all intrinsically a Biden thing. That's why they oppose them. But they get lost in the sauce over the nuance of like what a tax increase is going to mean for the deficit, which is usually a pro-Republican talking point. What the masks are going to do to get rid of the virus, which is going to help get the economy going again, and that a lockdown is necessary from all the other neighboring countries that have already gotten the virus under control that we have not yet. Again, there's a reason why we have 5% of the world's population in USA, yet we have 20% of the world's cases. That is systemic failure, full stop here. So what is little flea Trihex gonna do in a sea of red without the anchoring of a systemic change to inspire that?
Well, speaking of being a little flea, you have a unique opportunity because you're, in my opinion, one of the most respected Twitch partners, and you're a lot more than just a little flea on the Twitch platform. Have you always been this open with your own streaming community that when you go live and you're playing a video game, are you talking about these issues?
Actually, I've gotten a lot of people asking me, hey, you're unlike a lot of people here. You actually openly engage in political discourse. And I appreciate that. And I will say here that in a vacuum of manufactured charisma and being as appealing as possible, yes, being politically active and politically engaging does theoretically hinder my potential audience. But I also don't sleep well at night knowing that potentially I want people to know who I am unapologetically and what I believe in. The one thing that's gotten me to where I am now is always being passionate and transparent about things that inspire me and that mean a lot to me. In the past, it's been video games. But we're at a point now where things are so bad IRL, I can't guilt-free consume the escapism of video games, knowing that, we have, every 3 days is another 9/11 worth of Americans dying, needlessly. You know? So
I think you're echoing some of the exact same feelings that we feel, where I like who I am and I can rest at night because I recycled and I voted a certain way. I have these value systems that are important to me for my personal integrity. And the same way, we didn't feel right because we had the powers of these cameras to turn them on and go across the country, meet people on a street level, and see what America really is. And to check in with real people actually trying to create change. Before we started rolling the camera, you talked a little bit about you weren't that politically active until the last half decade or so?
Yeah, it was around 2015. It's actually whenever I discovered Bernie Sanders and who he was, and he was going to be entering to run for the Democratic primary in the 2016 race. And what really got me in there was that I found someone who I identified with in great unison and synergy policy-wise. I was like, oh, yeah. Green New Deal, that sounds great. Yeah, Medicare for all, that sounds great.
Somebody who cares about students, hey, I'm a student,
Student debt forgiveness, medical debt forgiveness, ending homelessness, affordable housing plan, $15 minimum wage. All these incredibly popular. They do poll well.
Right.
Incredibly popular pro-America policies here.
Right.
These are the things that help directly the majority of the working class American people right now. And it just makes sense to me in that regard. And we can defend that like even on a statistical basis because we have neighboring countries who do similar policies and it works. You know, right now in America we have like abysmal poverty rates.
Yeah.
Where majority of Americans can't even they don't have $400,000 savings in their accounts. They're living check to check.
Yeah.
And now with the pandemic and the unemployment and all that, yeah, they're hurting. They're hurting bad.
Yeah.
Bad. Yeah, whenever I heard about him, it's got me like, oh, the world doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
It can be different. This is not like the status quo.
So
We can do better.
What is your vision like for the future? And not necessarily whole country, unless you want to speak to it, but just like on a real like individual level, like what should life be like?
Ideally what needs to happen is that, you know, Americans are taxed, whether you want to be or not, and that taxation goes towards actually bettering the citizens. As of right now, majority of that taxation goes towards overseas wars, funding the military-industrial complex, and continuing to like fight, you know, ambiguous goals like terrorism or, you know, whatever ICE is doing or whatever the DA is doing. So that would be a start. Like, you know, people rather than the stigma be like, oh, all taxes are bad, we need to abolish all taxes. No, the taxes are there to fund the government's there to help the people. And we have to like get rid of all the systemic rot and all the corruption in the current politics and have the government be able to be a transparent body that helps people, period. So that we can like rebuild our middle class, so we can like lift up our poverty level all together here and come all together. The reality is, the best way analogy to look at it is like, you know, people always give a stigma to the homeless, but the homeless are homeless because of our societal issues we have right now, whether it be opioid abuse, drug addiction, and just like, you know, like inadequate, antiquated, unrealistic economic policy.
Yeah.
And it would be literally cheaper to rehabilitate the homeless and get them on their feet again, working to become tax revenue generating American worker citizens. Period.
When we were in Kansas City, Missouri, we found out that the teen homelessness population has doubled in the last 2 years because of the increase in the opioid epidemic. I was devastated.
Americans thrive on that American exceptionalism. They're like, oh, well, if they're homeless,
it's their fault.
It's their fault.
But these are children. These are children, right? Like, they never have the support network to be successful Americans, however you define that. Like, children are born innocent and they're not racist and they need all our love and support and good education. And,
well,
you know, that's what's infuriating to me.
You brought up a thing right there that I thought was a very, very valid point. I do believe that racism is a learned behavior. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's learned, 100%. That's the one thing I can tell you I've learned from being in the South here is that like that, you know, to them it's like, you know, oh, this is just the proper way. You know, they are how they are and they're not good people. Sorry, it is what it is. But that's a learned behavior, right?
Personally, though, do you think there is hope for unlearning that kind of prejudice?
I think any individual can be de-radicalized. The problem is we only have a finite amount of time on this planet, and so like it would take on average, if I'm being like, you know, optimistic here, a 3-hour candid conversation with somebody can de-radicalize any overt bigot. But the problem here is like, you know, that's 3 people a day, 9 hours a day. You know, you do that every day of the year between now and forever. It's like, you know, 3 years from now you'll have like, you know, maybe 10,000 people done. That's it. It's just like, you know, you're not gonna. It's just like, you know. Meanwhile, we have a population of 350 million people. So it's like, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
So like, you can only do so much. You have to like, again, if we're at the bottom of the waterfall, we have to come to the very top here, figure out what is the blockage of acceptance that's stopping everything from being better right now. So we got to start there. So I think we have to inspire a systemic change to bring about that micro change that comes at the individual level.
Yeah.
You know, because we can stop one big at a time on an individual basis with me and you with our de-radicalization through conversational therapy. But how do you stop a movement fueled by bigotry and ignorance and fear? You gotta go higher up than that, you know?
Yeah.
Now, before we go any further, I do want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Skillshare, back again with another opportunity for you in the Thumper community. Now, I know we continue this year, 2020, I don't even know what time is anymore, but we continue to live in some of the most turbulent times that we've ever experienced in our lives, probably, or experienced in a really long time. And I know a lot of us are feeling creatively challenged or frustrated, and we want to figure out how to put our words onto the camera to an audience, to reach people, and to maybe inspire others to do new things and to accept creative challenges and to overcome those hurdles and obstacles. Well, in my opinion, Skillshare is one of the best platforms to do it on. With creators like Thomas Frank, who offers amazing productivity tips to help you maximize every minute of your day and to be the most productive version of yourself possible. And Christopher Rhodes, one of the best filmmakers out there right now on YouTube, cross-platform, who really shows you how to utilize little to no budget to make some of the best videos that you can possibly make. In my experience and in my opinion, those are the best creators to learn from, those are the best teachers, the best people to really take advice from and to show you how to really help you craft something great. And if all that sounds amazing to you, for a limited time, go down into the description. You can get a free trial for premium Skillshare right now. Go do it. I promise you, you'll be a better creator, you'll be more productive, and I can't wait to see what you create. Let's get back to the video.
I was so upset at that first presidential debate. Biden, Trump can't even say no to white supremacy. It was so upsetting, and I was just like, no more. Like, I refuse to be a victim, you know. And how do you keep yourself from just, I don't know, drowning in a pit of despair, or like being in a fireball of rage when we are talking about such huge, multi-generational, multi-century long human problems?
Well, I admit, okay, I was a radical, pro-revolution, burn it all down because it's unstable, right? Like, our institutions that we have right now, they're antiquated, and we need to, start a revolution and build it all the way back up. But simply put, the problem there is, we've learned now that it's going to take a lot more than that. It's not just having the right solutions. It's conveying the solution to be popular with the majority of normal, non-political junkie Americans. That's the difference here. So you have to have the solution, which we have, but you also have to have the messaging to make it resonate with the majority of Americans here. Americans don't want to hear about, socialism or an American revolution because they love America. They love what they think it is, but are in denial of what it actually is. You know what I'm saying? That exposure is getting there. We are exposing here the whitewashing of American history. We are exposing the truths behind even some of the worst things here, where you look at the tale of Thanksgiving, up into the Trail of Tears, these Keystone pipelines, these Japanese containment camps that happened during World War II, which was complete bigotry. Let's be real about that there, okay? There's a reason why, whenever I was my girlfriend's white, we're interracial, right? And there's a reason why I caught myself whenever I was to meet her parents for the first time, and I thought, I have to convey that I'm extra not threatening. Right. I need to put on my highest amount of charisma, artificially past my natural point, just so that they don't think that I'm threatening, or that I'm a problem, or that I'm one of those thugs or whatever, right? Yeah. Even though it's totally fair to just assess me at face value as another normal human, not because I'm a black human, right? Right. And and it's crazy how much of that is subconsciously ingrained into us, especially. Yeah, internalized racism.
What do you want to say to the other, especially young people of color who are watching this? Because I think activism itself is kind of written by white allies. I love them, I appreciate them. But people of color don't have as much of a path to follow when it comes to what should I be doing right now in 2020?
That's a good question. And I feel like the most we can do right now is definitely normalize the POC experience, right? I think just a lot of our fellow Americans just don't know. How would they know? And the problem here is if you get too abundant in trying to tell them what it's like, they take it as, oh, you're being preachy. Is it really that bad? The answer is yeah, it's really that bad. Here are some stats, look into it. So, and how we do that is a good question, but it's a fine line to balance there. You want to be engaging without being preachy. Are you going to be able to convert a bigot if you like tell them how much of a terrible person Hitler or like David Duke is, right? You know, you're attacking their values directly. At that point, they're going to tune out. So you can't attack America or whatever their values are right away because they're going to tune out. You have to slowly wean them in, and you have to and you can't be preachy here. So what black people can do right now is kind of like help convey what that black experience is like, and try to get them to like really understand and make them relate to it. You know, for you, white person, it feels like this, but 10 times worse for me.
Right.
Because that example I can think of for a white person where they feel uncomfortable or they feel like they're being marginalized.
Right.
Is like it's based off of like, you know, you chose to be a cop, or you chose this career path you're in right now, whatever it may be here. I didn't choose to be black.
No.
And that's the difference.
No, definitely.
My existence is a stimulant to result in this kind of situation.
What are the things that leak over from real life that kind of affect your fun and joy of playing games with, you know, other people and hanging out with other people as you play games?
So what carries over from IRL into gaming for me?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing actually. I don't know. The reality here is that the appeal of gaming for me was that it didn't resemble anything like IRL for me. So let's go back here, right? So my teenagehood was in Louisiana, right? But my childhood was in Florida. So as I alluded to earlier here, the racism here is ingrained consciously, right?
Right.
So when I tell you there's only 4 groups: black guys, black girls, white guys, and I'm a black kid. I'm a black kid who loved Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, anime, etc. Right?
Yeah.
That made me an outcast because I was like the only black kid playing Yu-Gi-Oh in school.
Right.
Now, with that in mind, that also meant that all my friends were white.
Yeah.
To one way or another here, and so with that in mind, I had all white friends. Not because I chose to, because they all played Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon.
How did
right?
that affect you?
Dramatically.
Yeah.
So the black kids would call me White Mike. My name is Michael. And they would call me White Mike, and they would tell me, hey, why do you act so white? I don't get it. Like, what you doing? And I'm like, how am I acting in race? Like, I don't understand right now. You know. So they just like, the ignorance was weaponized, and it made me feel like I was the weird one because I was like, I didn't give it any attention. I'm like, no, I'm not letting my race dictate what I do.
Right,
I'm
because you
doing
didn't choose that, but you can choose to like Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah.
Right. So honestly, I felt alienated, outcasted, isolated, and often was made fun of by both the white kids and the black kids in certain cases here. So ultimately, by like 13 years old, I was like, man, okay, well, you know what? IRL sucks. I'm a very unpopular kid in school.
Yeah.
I hate it altogether, honestly. It was very, very traumatizing growing up. I had no father figure. My dad's out of the picture entirely. So what I had my games, and I had the purpose of becoming good at them. I wanted to be a god gamer at that point. So my identity, Trihex, is what I came up with when I was 13 years old because I wanted to be the world's best Yu-Gi-Oh player.
Yeah.
As corny as that sounds, that got me through the day because I was like, I would be exhausted enduring a school day, and I was livid when I got off school. So I was like, finally, what's the one thing I can do out here with this trash internet that's slow as crap, out in the middle of nowhere where there's no comic book shop, no tournaments. The one thing I have is playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Online. It didn't require a great PC, it didn't require a fast connection, and I could spank noobs all day long and get good at it, and I loved it, right? So when you ask me about what does IRL bring to gaming, for me, not much. Because my gaming was always all about pursuing my purest self in the glory of the escapism. I loved it.
If there's one thing that people could learn by spending time with you on your stream or watching this video right now, what would it be?
If I could think of one thing here, is that, listen, I don't think every Trump voter is racist, but I do think generally every racist was probably a Trump voter. See the difference there? So I do think that like those who voted for Trump in 2016, they can be de-radicalized, and I want to talk to them. So honestly, whenever I talk about politics, the one thing I do on my stream that makes it like really, for me, engaging and fun, that you may not be aware of here, is that like I don't just circle jerk my own policy wish list. I don't sit here and say, you know, being a liberal is awesome. Oh my God, dude, let me tell you about, you know. I instead implore people to tell me what they're not happy about. What are your priorities?
Right.
You know, they might tell me economy, immigration, healthcare. Okay, well, you know that there are, you know, if you look at those policies as your priorities, not the characterization or the mannerisms and all that, all the mantra you may see about that person, you can let that determine instead comparatively who you want to vote for. And I try to get people to understand that, because once you find the candidate that aligns with all the things that are important to you, that's when politics, when you feel represented wholesomely, that's when you're like really into it.
Yeah.
People think politics are boring or toxic and divisive, but in reality, if you look at the populist policy, what people overwhelmingly want to do, like have legalized marijuana. That may have been like a harder thing 20 years ago, but now it's polling above 70% at this point, right?
Yeah.
You know, so we can unify on that. Imagine all the non-violent drug offenders who are like behind bars, in some cases 20 plus years right now, for having never done anything.
I know you're a lover of anime.
Yes.
You got any good stuff that you're watching right now?
Man, okay, so just recently I did finish One Punch Man season 1 finally.
Yes.
That was super lit. I'm like really behind
Yeah.
because I'm telling you some boomer anime I've watched, right? So I finished that. I about 2 months ago finally watched Death Note.
Okay.
No, keep in mind, I know it's almost like a boo, like Where Have I Been, right? No,
Yeah.
I've long since read Death Note, but I never watched it, and it was really cool to like see all like to see what parts were kind of like glossed over, which ones were like really emphasized in the anime. I gotta say, I thought it was gonna be a snub. I thought it was gonna be like, you know, I don't know, man. Can they really take all of like the greatness of Death Note, the manga, and like make it a baller
Compelling
anime?
anime,
Yeah, I thought there's no way, right? But to my surprise, I was very impressed actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was actually really good.
All right, what are you excited about in games coming up?
All right, so get this right. So I do have the PS5 pre-ordered. I managed to get 2 pre-orders in.
Okay.
I have one on Walmart and one on Target.com.
All right.
The Walmart one is kind of sus because it didn't charge my card.
Sure.
So it's secured.
You're screwed.
I'm
You're
like,
screwed,
I got an email confirmation and I haven't heard anything since then, right?
Ooh.
So I have a PS5 secured, I think. So at that point, the game changed for me. So I'm gonna be hopping on Demon Souls PS5 remake comes out day 1. I'm hopping on Spider-Man Miles Morales. Looking really exciting here. And initially Cyberpunk was coming out November 27th or November 17th.
December
But now it's December, so it's good because now I got time. Can you imagine playing Demon Souls, Spider-Man, and Cyberpunk all in the same like?
I'm only gonna play Spider-Man.
Yeah. This has been sitting here.
Yeah,
And I've heard all sorts of things. Our community is like, Malika, you gotta try boudin. You're gonna love it. I heard that you gotta use your teeth and everything.
Yeah,
Can you demonstrate?
so yeah, it's meat wrapped in intestine. So what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna grab this one.
Yeah, the
Right.
whole one. Yeah.
Now it's a little bit cold, so this might not be as like, you know, money shot banger, because what's supposed to happen is like you're supposed to be able to like just kind of like eat into it. Sure, got a little bit right there.
Well, this one, the casing is already. All right, I'm gonna do
Already
this.
exploded, yeah.
I'm gonna do this. Hey Zach, we're gonna try boudin the way it was meant to be eaten. All right, here we go.
Now, take in the seasoning. It's got a little bit of kick to it. It's really good. Now I will admit it's so hard because I know it's kind of cold right now, but like you got that. You got boudin balls. They're delicious. They're fantastic. Fried pig fat. It's delicious. Holy shit.
Thank you so much for talking to us, showing me how to eat boudin, and taking us to this dope spot.
Yeah, I'm glad it matched the hype, which it did, right?
Yeah.
It's so good. Very good.
Awesome.
All right, I love doing that interview and I love getting to know Trihex a little bit better. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up, leave us a comment, and hit that sub button. And also share some follow love to our friend Trihex. See you in the next video.